everyone. Good evening. We are here to welcome all of you to this amazing call tonight. As you can see on your screen, Tim Blank, Tower Tim's here, and so is Troy Albright, which is really a gift to have these guys, seriously. So tonight, I would like to introduce you to these two amazing experts in the field of urban gardening. First, Mr. Troy Albright. Troy is a pharmacist by degree and profession, having an authentic passion for seeing people well and healthy from the inside out. Troy founded True Garden, Arizona's first vertical aeroponic farm, which has now been a top trending farm and garden center in the US. Troy and his team empower thousands of people every year by giving them the tools to grow all their fresh fruits and vegetables right in the comfort of their own home. Tim is one of the world's leading hydroponic experts, co-founded our wonderful Tower Garden company in 2006. Tim has a degree in horticulture science, served top horticulturist for the Walt Disney World Company for 12 years, managing hydroponic greenhouses at Disney's Epcot Center. Today, Tim serves as the Chief Technology Officer for the Tower Garden Company, is going to share some pretty cool things tonight, master gardening tips for that perfect tower garden, no matter where you live. So I would like to turn it over to Troy. Troy, what is your number one topic that people are asking you about these days? And, show us, what's happening within the last year. What's going on with our food supply? What's happening?
Yes, I'm being asked over and over again about food sovereignty, Alita. I mean, how can we be food sovereign? And that's what's exciting about our company. Our Tower Garden company allows us to grow food for our families, for our communities, even for those of us that want to have a commercial farm like I do. The price of fertilizer has gone through the roof. It's easily doubled. In some areas, it's tripled. When you look at the price of gasoline and all these other products, this is the perfect time for us all to become our own growers and growing food for not only our own families, but those around us. So this is exciting to see what's going on and where we're going. We're putting farms all over the world as a result of what's going on because of food sovereignty and the possibility of food not being available. It's exciting times to be part of this company.
That's great. And we understand just lately you were involved in a contest that now has given you the opportunity to create an app for your business, which is really cool.
Yes, we're excited about that. Thanks for bringing that up. We've revamped the website. We're working on an app and hope to have that app out by the end of the month here. I mean, there's lots of things to always put in and get going. So yes, we're excited to be awarded that grant from FedEx. And there's so many things that we get to do because of that. So we're excited to be a part of that. And all those of you that supported True Garden through that time and voted for us, I just thank you so much.
Well, we love all our commercial tower garden farmers, and we really appreciate everybody in our company that is doing the hard work that you guys all do. So thank you so much, Troy. I know that you have a pretty cool event you're at in Washington. So if you have to leave right now, we totally understand, but I'm going to turn it back over to welcome to the live, everybody. I know that a lot of you guys are on the live also. And I know that there's a lot of people here that are listening in on the Zoom. And I know that for the month of August, we're going to have a question and answer period. So don't forget to hop on our Zoom call then. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim Blank now. Tim, it's been a treasure and an awesome opportunity getting to know you. And so Tim, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy, so much. And good luck speaking there in Seattle this weekend. I know it's a beautiful health and wellness event. And, one of the things that Troy and I have both heard, over the last 2 years, but the last year it's gotten crazy. And so we wanted to dedicate one of our events specifically to this subject, and that is food sovereignty. And I mean, we get asked, when the pandemic hit, Americans for the first time in recent decades realized how fragile their food supply is. Okay. And how the grocery store shelves were out of food. And we see what's going on in Europe right now, and Russia and Ukraine. 25% of certain fertilizers and grains come from these countries. And so we are at the beginning of a food shortage, a fertilizer shortage. And every week, Troy has sent us an email of another individual saying, I want to grow everything for my family in our backyard. And so one of the real cool things is, like, here we have I'm over at a beautiful farm that you see right behind me. And not everybody can, build a greenhouse and start a beautiful farm like True Garden. But one of the real beautiful things in our company is we have several products. We have people that start out with just one tower and they grow in 2 and 3. And that's how Alita started, actually, and has a menagerie of fruiting and lettuce towers, and now her indoor towers with lights. And then we even have a product called Community Garden. They can be anywhere from 9 to 12 towers typically, and it's where a group of people, a large family or a couple small families, come together. So we always get asked, like, how would I do it if I wanted to become food sovereign, or just park 12 towers in my garage and get ready for that day I might need to grow my own food? How the heck would I do it, Tim? And so that's what tonight is all about. So get your pencils out and sharpen them, or your pens and your notepad, because we are going to burn through this tonight, and you are going to be blown away by what you can do to be food sovereign. And we have learned this is not a product line we came up with for this. We have, myself and tens of thousands of tower gardeners around the world are living in areas where they don't trust their food supply and various things, and they've always wanted to be sovereign. Our tower garden farmers on the islands, Mateus over there in Spain, for example, out in the Mediterranean, there's very little fresh food available. So he has that beautiful farm there where he grows everything for his household and does his little TikTok events with recipes. And I know Troy and many others do those every week. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen with you, because I put together a little presentation. And by the time we're done tonight, I promise you that you're going to your eyes are going to be open to what is possible right in your own backyard. And we have 2 key products. We have our Tower Garden Flex for growing outdoors, and Tower Garden Home for growing indoors. And we're mostly going to be talking about outdoor growing today, but just stay tuned, because we're going to show you how you can do the same thing indoors almost. So I would just want to start off with a little bit of education about, okay, you get a community garden, you got these 10, 12 towers, and where do I put them? There's me and my neighbor are going to do this together, or someone from my church group. How would I do it? So that's what we're going to talk about. Let's talk 5 things we'd consider. Now, when you have a garden, you want lots of sunlight, especially those fruiting crops that we're going to be talking about in a moment. The more sun, the more fruit. The less sun, the less fruit. It's just that simple. Now, for those of you that are living in, when you get into this community garden where you're really producing a lot of food for 1, 2, 3 families, say if you live in a place like Phoenix, you're going to be looking at putting up a little shade structure for the summer heat. Mr. Troy Albright over True Garden can show you the right type of materials. That's truegarden.com if you want to learn about what they do in the desert heat, how they clean water and things like that. But really good light, that's important. I know a lot of, for those of us on the call tonight that would live in Tennessee or Atlanta, Georgia, your backyard might have a ton of trees. So you might have to look at thinning those trees out a little bit, but whatever you do, you definitely want to get good sunlight if you're going to be growing, especially these fruiting crops and stuff. If you're going to be growing indoors, you don't have sunlight, but you're going to want a quality grow light. And we'll show you which ones you use for that in a moment. Water. Now, this is another interesting thing going on around the United States. Half the United States right now is flooding and drowning, and the other half has been in a drought for a long time, especially where our wonderful tower gardener friend Alita there and Troy, they're in Arizona, and they're going on they're calling a mega drought in the American desert Southwest. And what happens is when you go through a drought, your water becomes harder and harder and harder. It becomes more concentrated. And so we are finding in a lot of those places, especially when you're growing a lot of towers like this, you're going to want to get yourself a little garden filter that strips out a lot of those chemicals they use to clean up the water. And there's a little link, if you've got your phone, either do a screenshot or take a picture of your computer. That link gets you to True Garden, where they have one of those filters. It's one of the best ones I've found, and Troy has made those available for our gardeners. across the country. And even in Troy's greenhouse, to get beautiful plants looking like that day in and day out, that people come from all over Phoenix to buy produce at his farmer's market and stuff. He uses actually a reverse osmosis technology. And this is kind of step one and step two. That previous filter was how to clean up your water. But if you're living in an area where you're doing this indoors, and you've got a water softener, and you can't have that salt going into your tower, your water is terrible. Just worked with, helped someone in Florida, had the shallow well, and typically Florida water is really clean, and it just needed to be completely cleaned up. And so for that, you would use reverse osmosis. And as an example, I wanted to show you how affordable an investment like this could be. I went to Costco last week, found this one for 169 US dollars. I know we have some Canadian friends and other countries on the call, but that's how much it was here in the US. And this is another way you can just get completely purified water for your tower garden if you're living in a situation where your well water is super hard. Or I know Lita in Phoenix would use as one of those little filters I just showed you. So there's two good ways to do this. Now, if you're just growing one tower at home, we'll find people will maybe flush their reservoir more frequently. But when you're really getting into a lot of towers, I'm sharing this with you because I know my friends in Atlanta and Orlando, they don't worry about this at all, okay? But for those of you that are dealing with hard water, you definitely want to use some commercial grower techniques, and these would be some of the technologies. Power, all you need is a single outlet to run your farm. These are low wattage submersible pumps, but I do want to share something that's very important about your power. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people take those little cheap Christmas tree extension cords and patch them together, and you know what I'm talking about, and run them out to a single tower, and they wonder why their GFI breaker outlet trips on their wall, or their breaker trips. And so what we recommend is when you're going to be growing a farm like this, or even 1, 2, or 3, or 6 individual towers, I want you to find the thickest extension cord you can find. Real nice thick ones. This is what we use on our commercial farms. This is what you call the professional grower tips here. And you're going to buy it the exact length you need. One end's going to plug into your outlet, and it's going to run one single cord all the way to where you've got this grouping of towers. And then you want to get those extension cords where all 3, 1, 2, 3 female outlets are facing downward, because you want to hang this inverted like this, and the male end you want to insert underneath. If some of those extension cords will be like this, where there's a plug on one side and a plug on the other, and that's real bad because rain can get in there. So quality power to your farm, very simple tip. It sounds like common sense, but I can't tell you the number of people that buy the skinniest extension cord they can find, and they run into all kinds of challenges, especially when they're running 50 to 100 feet. Protected. Now, when you're growing lots of towers, over time, little critters will find their way to your yard. If you live next to a forest, a deer, some of our partners around the U.S. Live in a very windy situation. I know North Dakota in the springtime winds just never stop howling. And so if you don't want your plants torn up, if wind is an issue, or you got critters around, just a nice fenced in space can work really good. If wind isn't an issue, just even a wire fence to keep the critters out is a real good thing. In many urban environments, this isn't a problem, but people who live near where animals might hang out, it can be an issue. And then lastly would be accessibility. I've always, have told everybody, whether they're growing a single garden or this community garden like we're talking about, you want to be able to have it near where it's visible, where it's accessible. So here's a kitchen on a home, these patio doors. There's a nice area, favorite area out there where you can put all these beautiful towers. It's what my wife Jessica and I do. We serve food in our house. We walk right back out to our 6+ towers and just harvest food. So when it's close by, and again, you're balancing that out between sunlight, sometimes finding that sunny spot might mean walking that 50 to 100 feet, but typically we like to just do it real close by where we're harvesting frequently. So the next thing I'd like to talk about, and I'm going to get to how you'd actually set up the garden, but I want to share my 3 horticultural tips, because when we start getting into these community gardens, we have multiple towers and we got to pay attention to what we're doing. So we want to follow what we call a pyramid planting system, meaning that we never want to block the sunlight. So when we start picking all these various crops, the small ones are going to go on the top and the larger ones are going to go down in the bottom, because the tower gardens are a vertical condominium, and each planting area is competing for sunlight. And now, especially here's a great example of towers where, here there's watermelon and cantaloupe at the bottom of this juicing tower that are running out 15, 20 feet. So they're never going to block the other plants on the tower. So the other thing is group your multiple towers efficiently. We'll see some other nice pictures of this coming up. Here's a nice, beautiful tomato tower. There's an okra tower. And by the way, when these towers were planted, and say there's 20 plant sites on this particular tower garden model, some tower garden models have up to 32 and beyond. But this particular model has 20. And so we're going to plant both for tomatoes and okra. This is 5 pots tall, and there's 4 plant sites per pot. So we're going to plant 4 plants on the bottom, and then go up to the 3rd or 4th pot, plant 4 more, and then just let that fill in the whole plant cage on the tower. 20 plants of those large crops would be way too much. And so that's a great example of what we would do on our fruiting crops. There's a beautiful tomatillo bush. And, on our patio farm at home, we have our juicing and smoothie tower. So in the morning, we do that nice, healthy tower garden smoothie in the morning, and we send the girls out to go harvest. And we said, go to the juicing tower, the smoothie tower, so they know exactly where to go. And they start cutting the kale, the parsley, and we don't worry about cutting tomato vines and cucumber vines, because when we start to have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 towers, we got to think more like a professional grower. We want to get more efficient. So we group our various crops. And so the last thing would also be, we got to start harvesting efficiently. Now, for a lot of people who have one tower garden and they go to harvest some kale or some chard or something like that, they might just go and pluck 1 leaf, 2 leaf, 3 leaf, and they just take their time. That's just fine. But when you've got a lot of plants, we're going to do that differently. And I'll show you this top cut method that works real great. There's that picture of Troy and that bunch of kale. And right about there in the center of every kale plant or chard plant and parsley, the list goes on and on, is the meristematic growing tip or tips if you grouped multiple seeds together. And they're usually about 1/3 up from the base, so about right in here. You just take a quick peek in, you find out where that new growth is, and then you grab your hand and you just squeeze that kale or that chard or that lettuce in a bunch, and you just take your scissors and go, takes a half a second, you cut that plant right above the growing tip. And the next week, all those new little growing tips down there are going to flush right out within, anywhere from 4 to 10 days. You're going to have a nice new bunch of plants that you can just turn around and cut again. And that's the beautiful thing on the tower garden. Some of our urban gardening guys out there that love growing lettuce and other crops, their business model is buy more seedlings from us and replant every 4 weeks. And what we do is the tower garden is what we call a garden for life. It's built with virgin food grade plastic that is designed for hopefully an entire lifetime of use. And we want to cut our crops. And Alita, who's on this call tonight, she can tell you, she's had towers out there for a year where she's cut these gigantic, her chard leaves get, bigger than my head. It's really incredible to see what the tower garden is, a gift that keeps on giving. And that's what separates us from a lot of different things and technologies and people out there that love growing lettuce, So here's a great example of a little community garden. And let's talk about how we might set that up. So we are going to have over in this section, we kind of designate like 1/3 of the garden towards smoothies and juicing and herbs and cooking. And so that's kind of over here. And then we'll have that, the oldest to the medium to the youngest. So when I have a 12 tower community garden, I never, ever plant 12 towers at once. I want to stagger the age. So we always have new stuff coming in and old stuff going out over the entire annual growing season. And that keeps, if you have to replant a tower, you don't lose everything. So, when you look at this beautiful, if you see my mouse here, this beautiful juicing tower with kale, chard, parsley, I'm telling you, you could go cutting leaves here for family of 6 is going to use a small area like this. And so you really get, 200 square feet, you can grow a heck of a lot of produce, or 300, depending on how you space it out. Now in the middle there, we're going to have our fruiting tower. So we've got, say, like some tomato towers and some eggplant towers and some pepper towers, and we have hot peppers and sweet peppers and all kinds of crops. And then over on this side, we're going to have our beautiful salad towers, because everybody wants to get that phytonutrients and that nutrition every night. And the important thing is, when you're doing a community garden, is not just food for survival, but my goodness, make it fun. Kids today, they think Tower Garden is the iPhone of gardening. They love to get involved, to plant some of the things they love, the beautiful strawberries and a lot of these other beautiful crops. And look at that beautiful little rooftop community garden there. Look at all those wonderful, gigantic. Every one of those crops is just 4 to 5 weeks old from transplant. And so the Tower Garden is something like a soil garden, where you're going to be waiting an entire season to harvest the fruit of your labor. You are going to be harvesting them within 1 to 2 weeks when it comes to lettuce and leafy greens. And so again, just a great example of that layout. What dividing up your garden, you can see that lettuce is in different sizes and how fun and simple that is. And so you pick a time of a week, if you've got a group of families doing this, and one of you has that perfect yard with the sunlight, and that's why we called it a community garden. We wanted a product line, and this is available at towergarden.com. If you want something that a group of people can come together, a typical community garden uses a quarter, a half, or entire city block. But when we grow vertically, we don't need a quarter of a city block. We need a unused parking space. I mean, this particular community garden is outside of business. It's using one unused parking spot, not even that, to grow all these beautiful plants. And so that's the basics of how you would do this. And towergarden.com, we got all kinds of growing guides. If you scroll down on our website, and Troy Garden there, Troy Garden. Yes, he's a Troy Garden. Troy Albright over there, True Garden, who was just on tonight, does all these wonderful gardening classes, and has a greenhouse grower. They can teach you, no matter what partner you buy your Tower Garden from. You can, if you live within a 5 or 6 hour driving distance of True Garden, anybody is welcome and invited to those classes they do. And there's a little calendar, because if you're a beginner and a first-time gardener, you want to get a little bit of some of those professional classes, to get you trained up really good. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is, we just got about 5 more minutes here, is about growing indoors. Now, when we see what's going on with whatever your belief is on climate change, it doesn't matter. It's been a heck of a hot summer, year after year after year. UK just set records. And, I know when I started, working in the Walt Disney World greenhouses in 1993, when the monsoon seasons hit and it was partially cloudy throughout the day, we were running mid to 80s to lower 90s. The last 10 summers, it's been just a constant, just under 100 degrees during our monsoon. And so sometimes people struggle growing outdoors, or friends in Canada, who I just was talking to earlier this week, their growing season is so short in Saskatchewan. Like, they got about 3 to 4 months, and it's ice cold outdoors. So we have many people out there who growing indoors and excessive heat, they just want to do it. It's the way to go. We have a lot of businesses, restaurants, community centers, hospitals. I know Lita talks to these people day in and day out. There's probably 6 or a dozen other I'm missing. I know Lita's beautiful private school there in Phoenix. I know you all do this. It's a big deal. So we can take these same community gardens, move them indoors, and we've developed these full spectrum, state-of-the-art LED grow lights. And they have that balanced light for just both human comfort and for plant growing. And you can use the Tower Garden Home for growing indoors if you want, if you like that design better. But literally, we have people just taking, a concrete floor in a little warehouse or somewhere where they store their little utility vehicles, and they get these tower gardens set up and growing. Now, if you're thinking of a survival farm and you say, I'm concerned about the global food supply, and my family and a group of us from our church, we'd like to put away stuff for 5 years or 3 years or whatever it is. And so our tower garden minerals last a long, long time. If you keep them indoor in a dark, cool space, they're not going to degrade. And then you want to put away some seeds. You want to have a lot of seeds. In fact, there's a seed shortage right now. My favorite seed company is Johnny Seeds. I'm always to be very careful buying from small boutique heirloom companies, because not all the time are those. And I love those companies and I support those companies, but I'm telling you, you got to be careful. You got to make sure that they're testing, not just saying, but showing documentation. They're testing for viruses and diseases, because as the climate has been changing, farmers are dealing with more viruses: tobacco mosaic virus, tomato mosaic virus, Pythium, Phytophthora fusarium. These are plant funguses that will wipe out a crop almost overnight in excessive heat. And so companies like Johnny's were built for this. They sell to large commercial growers like True Garden there in Mesa, Arizona. And so they're going to test. So that's why they've always been one of my favorite farmers to buy from, because you could have 12 tower gardens, but if you don't have seeds to plant, you can't start those beautiful seedlings there that are only 10 days old and put them in. That's a little baby greens towers where it's just done with all the baby greens. There's almost 1,000 plant sites in 200 square feet. It's really, really amazing. That's the power of Tower Garden. That's who we are as a company. We have been doing this really longer than anybody out there. Our equipment is quality. Our people is quality. Our people are incredibly quality, like Alita and Troy and many others on the call tonight. You guys have a passion for helping people, and that's what really separates us from everybody else. There's a fate, anybody can go order something on Google or Amazon. They don't even know if they get some Chinese knockoff and it lands at your doorstep. And what the heck do I do from here? And the plastic's crumbling 2 years later outside. And, many of those lettuce machines do that. This lettuce machine, farm for life. That is what we're all about. You can learn a lot more about us at towergarden.com and all the different products we have. And Alita, would you like to just add anything tonight? I know a lot of people have been asking you about these church gardens and community gardens and survival gardens. And so did I miss anything? I know I only have 20 minutes here to.
You did a great job, And the images were beautiful. And it's always good I did not know anything about, how to trim. That was really, this chart. Yeah. I just thought that was, I just go and hack it away and just pull it off as I need it. But, I just loved your information tonight. It was really comprehensive. It's really gets your mind going about, hey, maybe my neighbors want to do something together, or maybe my church, or maybe my preschool, or whatever. And I know that we have the option of being able to order 12 at this point. I know the company is thinking about moving it to 9, but like right now, I'm in the middle of putting together an invoice for a school that wants 6. So, yeah, I think, is there anything really different that they have to do if you have a majority, like 6 to 9 to 12? Do you put all the water together? Do you have the tonic? Do you do each one of the towers together with tonic?
I mean, that's a great question. I'd share 2 final thoughts. The simplest thing is just kind of go with my notes, and just, it's really all about when you have one tower garden, you're just like yours at home. You have more than one now, but a lot of people might plant anywhere from 5 to 10 to 30 different crops on their tower. And so when the beautiful thing about a community garden is we kind of theme it, which really helps with the work efficiency. Alita, it's kind of like you're a pseudo commercial farmer there. So you go and you can cut your lettuces the same. And, I want to share something so powerful. I was listening to Jim Cramer interview the CEO of BlackRock, and the largest investment firm in the world. I'm trying to remember if it was, they have, I think it was either 12 10 or 12 trillion dollars worth of assets under management. I mean, really crazy. And they're really getting into this food. And he's like, and Jim Cramer asked him specifically, what's your biggest concern? He says, you know, the Fed increasing, you know, rates, the inflation starting to, you know, the raw materials are starting to pull in. He goes, but the war in Ukraine is affecting I really fear about our global food supply. He goes, fertilizer has literally doubled and beyond in price. And, you know, the Tower Garden Company, I don't think we've passed on any of the fertilizer increases, hardly at all, on the residential bottles. And we've really tried to keep those the extraordinary Tower Garden mineral blend at a, you know, really good price point for our people. But, you know, he has a big concern, and there's people that this is just exploding in Europe right now. If petroleum is getting, you know, we take for granted, Americans right now are really complaining, and they're really getting political about inflation. I don't know how many people on this call or watching this video know that United States of America has the cheapest inflation in the world. There are countries where food has doubled, it has tripled. Gasoline in some parts of Europe is $17, $20 a gallon, equal to what we're paying with the euro. I mean, there is a crisis going on globally, and America is seen, because we are so abundant, and we have this coast to coast of manufacturing and farming and such good ports. We are very, very blessed in this country. But even then, we saw during the pandemic how easily our ports can be shut down. I mean, not talking about sea level rise and different things happening in coming years, but that's a whole nother story. So let's get prepared. Let's get food sovereign. And man, you are doing a service to planet Earth, because every time you harvest those produce off your tower, you just radically reduced your carbon footprint on the earth, and you know where your food is coming from. You're in control of your food supply. I just saw Mr. Albright pop back up. So Troy, do you have any final thoughts for all of our guests tonight?
No, Tim, I'm very excited about the towers and everything we're doing. I'm at a big event with Dr. Mitra Ray up here in Leavenworth, Washington, and I'll be talking about commercial tower farms tomorrow. So I just appreciate you doing this with us, Tim, and coming in along and educating us about food sovereignty.
Yeah, it's awesome. And for those of you who are on the call, and those of you that are streaming in live on YouTube, please get back to the person who invited you to this call and get another tower too. Thank you so much, Tim and Troy, and have a blessed night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.